Some breaking news just in on this Tuesday morning. According to Adrian Wojnarowski, Doc Rivers has been dismissed as the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. Full reaction coming up, as well as some early reported candidates. But before we get started, this is why you subscribe to the show. Whether I'm at the Chat Sports Studios, here at the crib, or somewhere else, this is the biggest Sixers offseason of my entire lifetime. We're going to be covering it every step of the way. And I don't care where I am. When news happens with this organization, we're going to break it down here on the show. Lock us in, subscribe for year-round coverage of the Sixers. It's 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. So Woj tweeting this just moments ago, and doesn't come as much of a surprise following the fallout of that ugly blowout loss against the Celtics in the second round on Sunday in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Woj saying that the Sixers dismissed head coach Doc Rivers, sources tell ESPN, led the Sixers to the Eastern Conference semifinals in each of his 3 seasons on the job. More on that coming up around the corner. Woj with the follow-up tweet saying the Sixers' search for a new head coach is expected to include Mike Budenholzer, who was fired by the Milwaukee Bucks, Sam Cassell, Doc Rivers' lead assistant, Mike D'Antoni, of course, because of the Daryl Morey connections and potentially James Harden, Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, and Monty Williams. Let me say this. There is going to be a lot of competition for some of the best coaches out there, and I'm talking about specifically Nick Nurse and Monty Williams, because there are other really good openings across the NBA for some championship-level, high-level playoff teams. I'm looking at the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker, one of the best bucket getters in the NBA, as well as an aging Kevin Durant, but that destination obviously really attractive for a Nick Nurse or a Monty Williams. Monty expected to interview with the Milwaukee Bucks, and you look at the Bucks, who would you rather have as the star for your team, considering the injury issues with Joel Embiid, the fact that Giannis has already won an NBA championship, and how ugly that loss was and how bad the effort was from Embiid in Game 7 against Boston? I'm going Giannis and the Bucks over Philly and Joel Embiid, and that Suns gig is a really viable opening. And the questions that those coaches might have, Daryl, what is the future of this organization? Are you going to be the lead basketball executive? Can we win with Joel Embiid as the number one option on a championship contender? Speaking of Embiid, he's 29 years old. He has a long injury history. And you look at his playoff track record. He has really struggled in the biggest of games when the lights are the brightest. And who is going to be Embiid's co-star? If James Harden leaves, what are the options out there? Because this free agency crop is very thin as compared to previous years. And do the Sixers and does the next head coach even want James Harden back because of the problematic playoff history that he has, which reared its ugly head when he was pretty bad in games 5, 6, and 7 as the Sixers failed to knock off the Celtics to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2001. He, like Embiid, is also aging. There's also other roster questions here, and of course we're going to get to Doc Rivers here in just a moment. Can the Sixers find a way to offload Tobias Harris's contract? It is an expiring deal to try to improve the roster. That would be clutch, because I believe that him and Doc Rivers have held this organization back and this roster back to a certain degree. I do believe that Tobias Harris does have some trade value out there on that expiring deal, which is really important. If he goes to another team out there where he fits more seamlessly, guy can average 20 points per game on 45% shooting from the field, 40% from 3. He's done it throughout his career. He's also a very durable player as well. There are rumors, and were rumors, about James Harden not wanting to play for Doc Rivers any longer. So did that play a role in Daryl Morey wanting to move off of Doc? Because Harden was asked after Sunday's loss, what's your relationship like with Doc Rivers? He said, it's okay. And then Ramona Shelburne had reported on Monday that if James Harden were to come back, he'd want to come back most likely if Doc Rivers was not the coach. If the Sixers also want to trade for a star, let's throw a name out there like Damian Lillard, who said on Twitter yesterday he loves the Sixers roster. The only great trade asset that this team has is Tyrese Maxey, who's a young, blossoming star who I believe can be in the future a legitimate number 2, maybe factors in to be a better number 3, but you trade him away for an aging Damian Lillard, who, by the way, did average the most points of his career this past year, but he's 32 years old as well. You would be going fully all in on trying to win a championship over the next 2-3 years, and if it doesn't work out, you're looking at a process-like restart for this organization, and that is somewhat daunting. As for Doc Rivers, that's why a lot of you are here. Let's talk about it, right? He has lost an NBA record 10 Game 7s. You can't get past that, especially with how ugly the loss was in Game 7. And I don't put it on Doc. I said this live during our watch party. That loss was on Embiid and Harden and the lack of effort, which really was disgusting. But Doc, the history is problematic. So the record 10 Game 7 losses, that includes 5 Game 7 defeats in a row. He had 2 years left on his contract, but it was time. It was just time to move on. And following the loss to the Celtics, Doc Rivers now has a 17-33 record in series clinching games. That's by far the worst in the NBA. He's lost 10 straight second-round closeout opportunities. And now the Boston Celtics continue to be the Sixers' daddy as well as Jason Tatum, right? The Celtics 9-1 in their last 10 elimination games against the Sixers, and the Sixers have not beaten Boston in a playoff series since 1982. Let's be real, and let's give Doc Rivers some credit here. Doc Rivers is a good coach. He is not a great coach, and he is not special. The Sixers brought him in at a time when they needed a firm leader after the Brett Brown era. And he was able to establish and able to put together a good culture for this organization. He won a lot of games. And since 2020, when he became head coach of the Sixers, Philadelphia had the second most regular season wins in the NBA, behind the Milwaukee Bucks, 211-98. The Sixers were 197-112, and the Denver Nuggets 194-115. That's in elite category as far as regular season success goes. But Doc Rivers does not move the needle if you're trying to get past that threshold of making it to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2001 and trying to seriously win an NBA championship. The fact that he is 17-33 in series clinching games, he's lost 5 straight Game 7s and 10 Game 7s in his career. That doesn't cut it for a team that has this championship window open right now. They need a coach that can come in here and seriously move the needle. A Nick Nurse, who's won a championship before. A Monty Williams, who was in the NBA Finals a couple of years ago. Those are the types of coaches that you need to bring in here to get the Sixers over the top. Now, this is a roster with a lot of questions. Joel Embiid is 29 years old with an injury history as a big. That's concerning. Does James Harden come back? He has that player option. Can you offload Tobias Harris to try to get another better piece in here? He is on that expiring contract. Doc Rivers will go down as a good coach, not a great coach, and one of the most overrated coaches in the NBA. As for some of the candidates here, I'm interested to see if that list is going to grow. Will James Harden and Joel Embiid have a say? If Harden has a say, yikes. He does a great job of never taking accountability for his failures. I wish Jay Wright would unretire. It's just not going to happen. He seems to really be enjoying that broadcasting gig. And you look at the candidates one more time. Mike Budenholzer, look, outside of winning that championship, he's choked away a lot of playoff games and has failed to make adjustments where Eric Spoelstra was running laps around him. Sam Cassell, I like him as a candidate, and I've said that before. Mike D'Antoni, does Joel Embiid fit that type of style of that run-and-gun, fast-paced offense? He might get winded 30 minutes into the game. Nick Nurse, I'd love it. Frank Vogel is a defensive mind, and Monty Williams, I do believe, could be a good coach for this organization as well. But is he going to take the Sixers, where he was an assistant previously, over the Milwaukee Bucks when you have Giannis and the future of that team? And I like the roster a little bit more. So Doc Rivers out as head coach. We had a feeling that this was going to happen. Make sure you subscribe to the show because we have you covered all throughout this offseason with what is going to be a fascinating offseason for this organization with so many looming questions and that bad taste in your mouths after that Game 7 defeat. It's Philadelphia 76ers now. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate y'all for watching and keep it locked here on the show for the latest Sixers news and rumors.